was going to talk to us, I think, about REOs, but whatever you feel, you got the flow of the group now.
I think I'll just do an ask me anything. So I'll
Like
go
open
over-
discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, can we give him a round of applause, because this is his first time. Take the applause back.
A long time.
So go ahead.
Well, nice to meet everyone. I'm David Cohen. I have been in the real estate industry since 2006. I first came to Edison's meeting when it was part of the Broward meeting over at Denny's, and that was right around 2006. I got my real estate license. I actually met someone there that I am still doing business with today. And shortly after looking to get into investing, I got my, after getting my real estate license, I got into REOs. And I cut my teeth with a loan servicing company called Accredited Home Lenders. And I did a few properties with them. And then through Equator, which used to be called Rio Trans, I developed more relationships with asset management companies and started growing my business. I ended up having 20 employees, 60 agents, a sales manager, and we had, at the conclusion of the REO market, I mean, it's still going on, but to a much lesser extent, we sold over 2,500 bank-owned homes for Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, HUD, and 130 other loan servicing companies. And then in 2006, things started to, the real estate market started to really come back, and REOs are a lot less of an importance, and I started focusing my business more back on retail. So I do retail brokerage, I work with buyers, I do a lot of Facebook advertising, and I invest. So I have a couple buy and hold investments with a partner. I'm the money partner, and he handles everything. And what was your name, sir?
Cliff.
Cliff, yeah, so those are very interesting. I did something similar and got paid back in 5 years, and I'm very happy I did that, so maybe we should talk. And Rita, I've got lots of family members who are in nursing, and I think that's incredible what you're doing. My wife also has something, maybe she'll be a good fit to your women's group, so. Yeah, so Edison asked me to come speak. I speak every 5 years or so. Last time I spoke, I was in the thick of the REO industry, and so I'm just here. You guys can ask me anything. So if you have any questions about working with banks, working with REO brokers, offer submission, general investing questions, I'm sure there's some people who have more investing experience than I do here. I oversaw lots of renovations for the banks. We dealt with offers. Every bank has a different process. And I've also done a few renovations myself. I do like buy and hold, but I've experienced the same thing that many of you have in South Florida. It's a little pricey, so I prefer to do flips and renovations. So I was actively looking for a property. I did find one with a wholesaler recently, but we have the appetite for at least 2 properties at a time. So if there's anybody here who has a wholesale property, my market area is North Broward County and South Palm Beach County. So I'll go there. It's Delray Beach, Boca, Pompano, Deerfield Beach, maybe Coconut Creek. So if anyone has a wholesale property in those areas, we want to be under 200,000, and just bring it to me. I'll give you my business card. I have a whole stack of them here. So I'll just leave them here on the table. But yeah, I'll leave the floor to anyone if they have any questions. If you have any questions about REO or anything.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Facebook advertising. Have you
Yeah.
had success with it?
I'm having a lot of success with it. It's the way Facebook works is you can actually, people are very active and they click on things on Facebook, and you end up in their feed. So they might not be specifically looking for something, but if you show up in their feed, you can kind of, just that, when they just have that kind of inkling of, oh, they see a pretty house, they'll click on it. Then you can, once you have that in, you have their email, their phone number, you can kind of be there with them, sending them emails, leaving them messages, text messages, and by the time they decide to actually do something, whether it's to fix their air conditioning unit or to buy a property, then they've been thinking about you because you're top of mind because you're advertising to them. But basically Facebook's about getting in their feed, which is, it's a very active feed. It's better than email. Email gets mostly stays unread. And texting is also very, very effective for marketing because people don't like to leave text unread. So I highly recommend Facebook for advertising.
Okay.
Yeah. Not great for privacy if you.
No, that I understand.
But as an advertiser, it's perfect. So.
Right.
Yeah,
How the
right.
banks determine the market value? Sometimes it seems like they ask more than the house is worth, even if it does need repair.
That's a very good question. So the banks, they'll do two things. One, they get BPOs, broker price opinions, which are essentially an appraisal, but the appraisal's done without an appraiser. So they're not subject to appraisal law, but an agent does the same thing. So they'll provide 6 comps, 6 active comparables, meaning they're either for sale or under contract, and then, 3 active comparables, and then 3 sold comparables. So also adjustments have to be done. So if your subject property is larger and then your comparable property, then you need to make upward adjustments. So just the same things that appraisal will do. And then a lot of banks will actually order an appraisal. So it depends on the client, but usually you'll see at least one appraisal, the listing agent's broker price opinion, and then you'll get the sometimes a third-party broker price opinion, and then they'll weight those values and then come up with a list price based on that. Now, if my broker price opinion is way off from the appraisal, they'll ask me and they'll let me know, listen, you're way off from the appraisal, what's going on? But it's not an exact science. A lot of times they'll list below market, and a big mistake I see buyers make or investors make is they'll want to pay some price below the list price, which is fine if it's overpriced or at market, but if the property is listed below market, you really want to submit above asking price if you want to get that property, because we sold a lot of properties above asking price because the bank decided to list them at a price that was a little bit below the market. And so essentially what would happen, we get multiple offers, and usually the one that's at or above asking price is the one that gets the property. Though I have seen properties have multiple offers and still come in below asking price. So it's not an exact science. The market knows best, and sometimes the bank, they're trying to pinpoint that market, but sometimes they'll overprice it. And the nice thing about bank-owned properties is if you like the property and it's overpriced, they eventually will sell. They're not going to take it off the market like a traditional homeowner. They're going to keep dropping that price until they sell. And if you can get your offer in prior to the bank dropping the price, then you have less competition traditionally.
Yeah, just to follow up with the property.
Yeah, just keep submitting. You can submit the same offer. Do like Trump does. He lowered his offer on Mar-a-Lago. He kept lowering the offer, and eventually it's sold. So. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So speaking of submitting the offers, can you elaborate on what's the best technique for getting a hold of the right person at the bank for the REO? You gotta talk to the right people, right?
Just speaking to the REO broker. Speak to the REO broker because the bank will not entertain offers. Out of the 2,500 homes that I've sold, I've never had a seller or one of my corporate clients entertain an offer that was that it wasn't listed. So I've had people aware of my listings who had been watching it prior to the foreclosure and wanting to buy it, and then they find out that I'm the listing agent. Even before it's on the market, they contact me and they tell me, hey, I want to submit an offer. The banks will not entertain them. They want it to go through full appraisal, and they want their list price, and they want it marketed on the MLS prior to selling. They're savvy sellers. They know that if the property's not marketed correctly, they're not going to get top dollar, and they're not pushovers. They're not easy, but they do have to sell. That's the advantage. They're essentially a distressed seller.
What I always heard is it's hard to contact the right people to even get the REO.
In short sales, it's a little different, but if it's listed on the market, it's a very easy transaction. There are usually bank-specific addendums, so they'll supersede the FAR, the Florida contract, and they have their own language because they want to have a consistent contract across all 50 states. So
Then you just call the bank though and ask for a list of REO properties?
You can, usually they're on the website, so if you want Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or HUD, they're all on the web. And, yeah, they're all pretty much marketed. If you go on the MLS, you can search, or if you want, I can send you a list of all REO properties in both counties.
Cool.
David,
Yeah.
how fresh does the comp have to be? Is there a set timestamp, 30, 60, 90, that all banks follow, that you're running comps and say, no, it's, you know, they want something in 30 days, but nothing sold within 6 months? Is there a hard and fast rule on that?
On the comparables that they
Yeah,
use?
comps, yeah.
They leave it up to the agent, but they do have guidelines. And so what I would do is I would prefer to look at comps within the past 3 months. But the problem is if they're not there, then I'll maybe go 6 months. And sometimes they're not even there as well. But you kind of have, it's an art, it's not a science, because you have a situation where there may be comps in the past 3 months that are outside of the subdivision, but maybe there's comps in the past 6 months that are in the subdivision. And so it's like, well, do I want to look at more aged comps in the same subdivision or newer comps outside of the subdivision? My method is I would look on a map view and not put the subdivision name, because that can vary. Sometimes the agents that are listing it will put different subdivision names. And on the MLS, you can just draw a map around the community, and you can see on a satellite view kind of like-kind homes. And so I'll draw a map around the community, look in the past 3 to 6 months, and then try and pick the most comparable properties in there. Sometimes it's easy. Century Village is really easy because there's a lot of, you know, comps, but other communities, Crest Haven's a little more difficult because you have a wide variety of, you know, renovated homes and non-renovated homes, and, you know, different prices. And so anyway, after that, there's no hard and fast rule.
Does each bank have an agent that they work with primarily that's connected with the bank? And if so, how do you get in that connection?
That's a very good question. So they have a vendor database. Each bank has a different vendor database, and so as a real estate agent, if you're wanting to get into REO, what you need to be is you need to get into the vendor database, and they'll have a vendor manager who handles that. Once you're in the vendor database, now you're in queue to receive assignments. And assignments are essentially prior to a listing. So it's like we would get all of our business in an email. So they'd email us a new assignment email, and that's money. That's what we saw as money, because we knew there's a 90% chance we would sell that property. The only times we wouldn't sell is if it's in maybe a country club. Country club properties are extremely difficult to sell. I mean,
Why is that?
Because they're very expensive dues. You know, so in Boca you have at least 10 different country clubs. There's $70,000 to $120,000 non-refundable equity fee just to move into the community, and then and people buy in those communities, but they want $10 million homes. And the foreclosures we're getting are small little single-family homes, which the people who are willing to pay those HOA dues, they want usually a bigger home. So you'll see Boca West condos selling for $1. Nobody wants to buy them. You have to pay a $70,000 or $90,000 equity fee. Then you have to pay another $20,000 a year to maintain the golf course and whatnot.
When they sell, do none of that comes back?
It depends on the community. There are some that have half of it will be refundable, but most of them are non-refundable. Golf courses are extremely expensive, so these homeowners that live in these communities have to pay for these golf courses. A lot of people that live in the communities will not even golf, but they want to live on a golf course with a nice view. So if you're looking for a good country club, the best country club in Boca in terms of fees and dues is Boca Point. They have a non-mandatory country club dues, so you can join if you want to. You don't have to join, so you still get the gate. You still get to live on a golf course, even though you can't use it if you're not paying the dues. Trying to think of other ones. I have a listing right now. It is a bank-owned property. It's a $99,000 listing in Broken Sound. And what's really interesting about this property is it is anywhere between $13,000 and $20,000 a year to live in the community, and it's a $70,000 equity fee. But the property, similar comparable properties in that subdivision, for these three bedroom, 2 bathroom renovated have gone as high as $6,800 a month in season. So it's really it's an interesting property, and I think.
What about
there's an opportunity.
rental restrictions?
I believe it's once or twice a year. I can get you those details though. I'll just grab my business card up here, and then I can give you all the details for that one.
You're not gonna find any dollar condos in there, or Boca Point, right?
No, that's Boca West. So
Right.
you can, but this one's a single family house. So it's got a pool, single family house,
Oh, okay.
1,700 square feet, 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, and everything's maintained. You have a gate. You have what else do you have? Like, they take care of all your landscaping, so you don't have to worry about that. One thing, if you're interested, we can talk about it, but there might be some ways to get your tenant to have all the access to the amenities. So yeah.
Okay,
Ask me about
I'm gonna
it.
get your card.
Yeah. Good.
A lot of REOs lately around, or?
It's still pretty slow for REOs. You can, if you have any real estate agent that you guys are working with, if you don't have one, give me a call, just grab my number, and I can help you with offer submission. I can help you with HUD properties that are very specific with their contracts, and I can get you a list of all the new REO properties that hit the market. So I have investors that I work with. I send them daily emails with all of the REOs that are in their criteria, and when they see one that they like, they let me know, and we just submit offers for them. So, yeah. It's it might start coming back. We'll see. We'll see what the market has for us. You know, we don't know.
You say HUD properties?
HUD properties, yeah. So HUD properties are FHA foreclosures, and they have a very. You don't submit a FAR bar contract with traditional REOs. You'll submit a FAR bar contract, and they'll give you their bank addendums. You'll review the addendums, sign off on them, and some of them will give you an inspection contingency. Some won't. With HUD, they have a very specific contract. You don't use traditional FAR bar contract.
So an REO bank, and they do a listing, is there a percentage they're looking to get off of that listing, or they're looking for, they listed at 100, they want to get 100?
They have an internal value that they're looking to hit. They don't share that with their listing agent, so we don't know.
Okay.
But they have that number, and if the offer comes in above that number or at that number, the asset manager in charge of that asset is authorized to just accept it, or sometimes they'll counter. But if it comes in below that and you're the only offer that goes in, they will go to their manager for approval. And if it's sitting on the market for a long time, often they'll get that approval. The challenge with REOs is when they first hit the market, and if it's underpriced, it's like flies on you know what. It's really, and that's where you want to start. You get into these bidding wars, and you just put in your final invest number, and it's not always the highest offer price that'll win. It's if let's say you have 2 offers, one of them is financed and one of them is cash. Obviously, the cash offer has more weight, so they'll kind of judge that based on the purchase price. But the REO properties that have been sitting on the market for a long time, they're very motivated to get rid of those. Everyone's graded on those reports. So we would sit down and have meetings with our staff every week about our key performance indicators, and we were graded on all our days on market, on how close our opinion of value came to the sales price. We were even graded on our owner occupancy rate. They really pushed. They wanted owner occupants, not investors. And that's the problem with HUD is you can't get your offer looked at for the first 15 days if you are if you're not an owner occupant. If you're an investor, they want to give those first 15 days to owner occupants. And they push their agents to make sure that we actually have to sign off and say that we know that it's not an investor or we so if you do plan to submit an offer on a property as an investor within the first 15 days, don't let your agent know. But they will make you sign a piece of paper saying you're liable for like $10,000 if they catch you.
Yeah, how long do you have to hold the property? Because I remember we bought a HUD home for our own personal use.
Okay.
And I think it was like 6 months we had to hold it before we could sell it or something.
That's a very good question. I don't remember. So that may, when did you buy it?
That's like 6 years ago.
6 years ago. They may still have something like that, or it may depend on the community. So I'm not 100% sure, but
David, based on you running the numbers, have you kind of figured out what a formula would be for their point spread? Seeing that, with the
Oh,
offerings
that's a good
that
question.
come in
Yeah.
and say the matrix is under 100,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
14%, over 200 is 9.5. Have you run some numbers and figured out where spread might be?
I had 130 different clients, and we had a full-time position with just people taking the data from the field in our own CRM,
Right.
going to these different portals. So, and every client had different policies. That was the difficult part. So, I might have enough, if I were to run the numbers through Fannie, Freddie, or HUD, those were our largest clients. So I sold somewhere in the vicinity of 600 homes for Fannie Mae. So there's probably the data there.
Yeah, just curious,
But
I figured if you figured out the formula.
The problem is that you sell the property and the property could have been sold below their internal value because they went and got approval. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yep, gotcha.
From their
Right.
manager,
Yep.
so you really, it's no
Right.
way to
Yeah.
kind of tell that, but there's a lot of interesting insights you could probably gain from our data. We just, different ways of looking at it, but maybe someday we can get on the phone and look through it, but it's, the main thing is if you like a property, submit an offer that makes sense for you.
Right.
If they don't, if it's still on the market and they haven't accepted your offer, just keep submitting that offer. Just be consistent. Eventually, if nobody else is interested, and here's the key, is they've had no other activity because they're overpriced, they're gonna be much more open to taking a much lower priced offer.
And what's the protocol on resubmission of an offer? They say no, is there usually, you're waiting 7 days, 10 days, and you do
I
a
would wait.
resubmission, or
Yeah.
is there a time that you usually recommend to say,
So-
let's sit on it and then, see if something didn't bite?
So two things that we did that was pretty consistent across all of our clients is we would do a monthly status report, and that included giving comps, and then every 90 days we would do another BPO. So we do another broken price opinion.
Gotcha.
And so that's you want to hit it before they do the revalue, because then because once they've dropped the price,
Right, and it trends up, then you're in
now
trouble.
it can be popular again and you can be competing. You don't want to
Yeah.
get into that competition, because that competition is when you end up getting into those bidding wars. When you're not in competition, that's when so you're right around 85 days, they're about to drop their price, get in there before they do it. So,
Thank you.
All right, let's get it right. Oh, one last question.
Okay, I had a question about the present occupant, or in this case, let's say the prior owner before the bank took it over. They're living in the house. Are there restrictions about keeping that person in the house? Or maybe I'm confusing it with short sale, because I thought there's a law like that the person living in the house, you can't stay there if there's going to be an auction or a short sale.
So there are rights for any occupant. So, but there are two different types of occupants. You have the previous borrower, and then you have a tenant slash squatter. Tenants and squatters have greater rights than previous owners. And so the eviction process for tenants and squatters is a longer process, but they still have to go through an eviction, and it has to do with the writ of possession, and honestly, it's a little bit outside of my purview. I don't know the details on it, but I do have eviction attorneys I can introduce you to. But I did sell a property recently in Lake Worth. It was probably the homes in the community probably comped out around 600,000, and this one I think we sold for the mid to low threes on auction.com, or one of the auction websites. It was occupied. It had a gaping hole in the roof. I mean, it was in really rough condition, but we sold it occupied. And what the banks will do is they have an eviction. They'll start the eviction. They send us out. We'll go look, and we report back to them whether it's occupied or vacant. And then if it's vacant, that's an easy process. If it's occupied, then our next step is we want to negotiate relocation assistance. So we'll offer a certain amount of money to be out by a certain date, and then the home has to be in broom swept condition. So if we agree upon a date, I'll show up on that date. If the property's vacant, if it's all moved out and it's in broom swept condition, they'll give me the keys, I'll give them their check.
How much is that typically?
It can vary. I've seen very small checks, usually, around $1,000 or something, and I've seen very large checks for large homes, because that market time has value. And then so some people would accept it, and in the case of the one that I just sold, they wouldn't accept it. They originally expressed some interest, and then they went silent on me, not responding to my phone calls or anything. And so the bank proceeded with their eviction and sold it occupied, and the new owner would have had to deal with that eviction, but it just so happened they closed right as the eviction happened, so they were in luck. But those are good opportunities. I mean, even if you can buy an occupied property, you have a lot less competition. There's no owner occupants are going to be looking at it. Anyone who has to finance is not going to be looking at an occupied property, and typically it's only investors you're competing with, and then all you have to do is deal with the eviction. The only challenge is knowing what the interior looks like if they don't let you inside. So, but previous borrowers have less rights because they previously owned the property, and it's easier to evict them. So,
Okay.
all right, guys.